Hello Divi Nation and welcome. In today's video, we'll be designing 4 stunning examples of Divi's Post Title Module and how to achieve them. This is the final result we're aiming to achieve, so without wasting a lot of time, let's dive in and let's get started. Okay, so right now I'm in the admin dashboard of my website, so the next thing we're going to do is to create a brand new post. So we're going to come over here to post and click on add new. So for the post title here, I'm just going to call this post 1. And then over here on the right, it's very important that you set this set this to no sidebar. So right now by default, it's set to right sidebar. So we're going to click on this drop down, set it to no sidebar. Next, on the show title here, we don't want our title to show. We want to be able to add our own title in the builder. So let's go ahead and disable this. So I'm going to come over here. Click on hide. Next, we need to set our featured image. So I'm going to come over here. So when it comes to featured images, you need to make sure that you use royalty-free images. There's quite a few places online like pexels.com, that's pexels.com, or Pixabay and Unsplash. They have a lot of images that you can use in your design projects. But if you have your own images that work with your post, then go ahead and use those. So what I've done here ahead of time is I've uploaded my images here and I downloaded them from Pexels. So I'm going to go ahead and select my image and then click on select. So now my featured image has been added to my post. So as we've added these changes, nothing has happened here as yet because we haven't activated our Divi builder. So what I'm going to do next now is to publish this, because we want to make sure that we don't lose any of our information. So now that it's published, the next thing we're going to do now is to click on use Divi builder. So I'm going to click on that, and then now this is going to take us to our front end page where we get to choose which option we're going to go with. So we're going to build everything from scratch. So I'm going to go ahead and choose build from scratch. Right, so next we need to add a single column. So I'm going to choose my column here, and in that column we're going to start off with a post title. So I'm going to choose post title. So as you can see now, my post now brings in my featured image. So over here on the left, what we need to do is to make sure that our featured image is on top of our title. So to do that, you want to come over here to elements and scroll all the way down. And then you see where it says featured image placement. You want to click down on, click on that, and then you want to place it above the title. So now we have the featured image on the top and then the post on the bottom. Right, so now that we have all this set, the next stage now is to add a little design element to our post design. So I'm going to click here on background to add a background gradient. So I'm going to click here on the second tab for our gradient, click this plus button, and we're going to start adding our colors. So if you want to follow step by step and use all the colors that I'm using throughout this tutorial, I will leave a link to the post in the show notes below. So our color here is going to have a transparency to it. So I'm just going to click here on the slider and paste my value between the brackets like that. Go on to the next color, and this color is going to be full transparency. So I'm just going to drag the slider as I did before, like that, paste my values between the brackets, and make sure your values are between the brackets, otherwise this won't work. Right, so the next thing we need to do here is to change our gradient type from linear to radial. And then we also need to add our positioning. So our radial direction here by default is set to center. So we need to set it to bottom right. So I'm just going to select bottom right. And then we also need to add our start and end positions. So for our start position, we're going to add it to 10%. And our end position, we're going to set this to 0. Okay, so I don't know if you've noticed that, but this is our design now here on the bottom right. And you can see it here in the preview, but it's also here as well on our just below our featured image. Okay, great. So now that we have that set, let's go ahead and continue to customize our design. So we're going to come over here to design. So the first thing we need to do is to add our title font, because we don't want to go ahead and use the default one, okay? So for our title font, we're going to change this to Josephine Sands. So I'm going to search for it here. It's a Google font. And then here it is. I'm going to select it. We're going to come over here to alignment, and we want this aligned to the right. So I'm going to choose that. And then next we want to set our size. So here we're going to set this to 36 pixels. And then for our line height, I'm going to set this to 1.7. Now, while we are here, we might as well go in and make sure we set our sizes for our desktop and smartphone. So I'm going to click here on this little icon to access my other devices. So I'm going to click here, and on the tablet and smartphone, we just need to make sure it's set to 1.3. Okay, so that's much better. Okay, so back here on the desktop view, let's carry on. So the meta font, that's going to be Josephine Sands as well. So I'm just going to come here and just make sure that I select the right item. So I'm going to click here, and just to keep our consistency, I'm going to choose the same font here. And for the title now, we want to make this all caps. So I'm going to set it to all caps. Text alignment, we want this to the left. And for the letter spacing, we're going to set this to 2 pixels. And our line height to 2 EM. Right, so the next thing we're going to do here is to add our margins. So I'm going to click here on spacing, and we're going to start with our custom margin. We're going to set this to -5 VW, and this we're going to apply to the top. Now for the custom padding, we're going to add 5 VW, both to the top and the bottom. So let's make sure this is VW. Okay, and we're also going to do the same to the left and the right. So I'm going to paste that. So as we can see here, this is looking much better now. So let's go ahead now and add our right border. So I'm going to come over here to border. So first of all, I'm going to break the chain, and then I'm going to choose my right border. And over here, I'm going to set my width to 4 pixels. Okay, so now we can see the border is in line with that design element that we added earlier on. Great. So let's continue on. So the next thing we're going to do now is to add the box shadow. So I'm going to scroll down here, choose box shadow. And the box shadow we're going to go with is this one right here. So as you can see, as soon as I've selected it, this has added this design element over here to the right. Okay, so moving on. The next setting now we need to add is the horizontal position. And we're going to set this to 112. So I'm going to set it here. Next, we're going to come over here to the spread strength and set this to -80. And then finally, we're going to come over here on the shadow color. I'm going to click here on the eyedropper tool and paste my color here between the brackets like that. Next, we're going to save our settings. So now I'm going to go into my row settings here and make some customizations. So I'm going to click here on design. So we want to make sure that this has a custom width of 700. So I'm going to come over here to sizing and then click on use custom width. So over here is where you can specify the size. So I'm going to add 700. Next, we're going to come over here to the border, because as you can see here, we have a right border. So we want to add something over here to the left as well. So let's choose our left border, and we're going to set this to the same size of 4 pixels. So I'm going to add it there. So now we can see we have our borders. So as we did before, to have the similar style here, we need to go to our box shadows. We're going to choose the box shadow style. So here on the horizontal position, we're going to set this to 112. Vertical position, we're going to set this to 85. Next, on the spread strength, we're going to set it to -80. So now this, and then over here, we're going to set our color. So I'm going to click here on my shadow color and paste my value between the brackets. Okay, so this is now our final design. I'm going to go ahead now and save here. All right, so now it's time to work on our second design. So I'm going to come over here, click this plus button, add a regular section, and this time we're going to have 2 equal columns. Right, so what we're going to do here on the left side, we're going to add an image. So I'm going to click this plus button, search for my image module, and select it. Now, the most important thing here is when it comes to the images, here we're going to add this image as a dynamic image, okay? So I'm going to come over here. In fact, I'm just going to close this. So now that I've deleted that, I can always click this little icon here. So this allows us now to add our image as a featured image here. So we want this to be dynamically added. So as you can see here, my image has been added automatically. So we can actually go in and change that image if we want to, but it's okay. I'm going to go ahead and just use that one. But if you want to change it, you can just create a brand new post and that image will change. All right, so now that we have our dynamic image, so we're going to save here, and then on the right, we're going to add the post title. So again, I'm going to search for it. Select post title. So as you can see here, it is come in with the featured image as well. So let's come over here to elements and then disable the things that we don't need. So first of all, we're going to disable the show featured image. So I'm going to disable it here. Next, we're going to add a background gradient. So I'm going to come over here to background, click on the second tab, click this plus button, and the first color we're going to add here is going to be white. I'm going to add my second color, and this time this one here is going to have transparency. So you just drag the slider down here and then paste the values between the brackets. And as I mentioned before, if you want to use the exact same values as I'm using throughout this tutorial, I will leave a link to the post in the description below. So now that I've added my colors, the next thing we need to do is to add all our title fonts and sizes. So over here on the right, I'm just going to click here on this little icon, and this will take me directly to my post title settings. So I'm going to start here with my title font, and we're going to make sure that this is set to Fira. So I'm going to go with condensed. And then over here for the font weight, we're going to set this to ultra light. And then for the sizes, let's start with our desktop size, set this to 80. And then we need to come over here and set our sizes for the tablet. And for the tablet, we're going to set this to 70. And for the phone, we're going to set this to 45. Okay, so now it's nice and small. Okay, so back over here to the desktop. Let's make sure that this is 80. Okay, there we go. So the next thing we're going to do now is to come over here to the meta text. So I'm going to click here. And again, we're going to set the same font that we've just selected. But this time, we are going to make it all caps. Text alignment to the right, all caps. Okay, so now we're going to add our colors. So I'm going to click here on the eyedropper tool and paste my color in here. So for the letter spacing, this is a bit too close. So let's add 2 pixels on the letter spacing. Okay, so that's looking much better now. Now let's add a custom margin of minus 20%. So I'm going to come over here to spacing, and then I'm going to add my custom margin here. So as you can see, as the moment I've added my minus 20%, it has just moved my title over into the image. So this is how we achieve the overlapping effect. So over here for the tablet and smartphone, we might as well go in and make those changes. So here we're going to set this to 0 because we don't need that. And then over here on the phone, that's going to be 0 as well. Okay, so now that I have this all set, the next thing we need to do now is to add our custom padding. So we're going to add 5VW to the top and the bottom. Over here on the left, we're going to set this to 30 pixels. So the reason why we're doing this is we want everything to be precisely in its place. So right now, by adding my 30 pixels here, everything is going to be in place. Okay, so the next stage is to add a line below this title. So to do that, we need to come over here to the box shadow. I'm going to choose this option here. And now let's go in and add our settings. So our horizontal position here needs to be set to 80. Our vertical position, 82. And then for our box shadow spread strength, we're going to set this to minus 80. Okay, so now we can see we have a line. Now let's go ahead and save our settings, and then we need to go into our row settings and make a few changes over here. So first of all, we're going to click here on design and go into our gutter spacing. So I'm going to click here on spacing. In fact, I need to go to sizing. Right, so for our gutter width, so the gutter width is the distance or the space between the 2 columns. So by default, it's set to 3. Let's reduce this a little bit. So now you can see as I drag it over here towards the left, things are overlapping. So let's make it go all the way to 1. And now you can see our title is really going into our design here. Now let's go to equalize column height and say yes. Then we're going to save. Okay, so this is our final design, but notice that here we have just 2 words. So if you were to add a proper title here, so let's go to Lorem 2 so I can show you how this would look if you had a much longer title. So if we come back here and exit the Visual Builder and change our title from post 1 to that, okay, let's click update and let's preview this. Okay, so you can see here that our title now looks more realistic, and this is how our second design works. And as I mentioned before, because over here we have dynamic content, this is pulling from the image that I set for this title. So what if you wanted to add an oval shape on this featured image? Well, that's easy. All you have to do is to click here, back into our settings, click on design, click on border. And then over here, we can just add our rounded corners, and we can set this to about 50%. And now you can see we have an egg shape or an oval shape. So we're going to save that. All right, so let's go ahead and save, and let's move on to the next design. And this one here is going to be the unique content background for readability. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a brand new section. So I'm going to click here on this plus button, the regular section, and all we need here is a single column. So I'm going to go ahead and select that, add my post title. I'm going to select that. And then over here on the elements, let's update this. So first of all, we need to disable the featured image. So I'm going to go ahead and disable it here. And then let's go ahead and add our font. So over here, we're going to set this to a Brill. I'm going to select my font. Next, we're going to add our text color. So we're going to make it nice and gray. So I'm going to click here on this eyedropper tool, paste my color in here. And then we're going to add our size. So for the desktop size, we're going to set this to 75. And for the tablets, we're going to set this to, let's say 50, because we want this to be easy to read on the tablets. And then on the phone here, we're going to set this to 30. Now let's head over here to our letter spacing. So I'm going to scroll down, set this to 2. And for our line height, we're going to set this to 1.1. Now let's head over here to the meta font. So I'm going to click here on this little brush tool, and this takes us straight to our meta text configurations. So first of all, I'm going to set my font here to Roboto. I'm going to choose condensed, set my color to white, and my letter spacing here to 2 pixels, and my line height to 2 EM. So now for this, we're going to add something different. So we're going to go ahead and go into the sizing here and set our sizing to 60%. And we might as well add the sizes for the tablet. So for the tablet, we're going to set this to 90%. And then for the phone, this is going to be at 100%. Okay, so now that we have our sizes all set, the next thing we need to do is to add custom padding, but this custom padding is going to go to the left. So I'm going to come over here to spacing, custom padding left. We're going to set this to 3VW. So now, as you can see, our meta text here is not visible. So we need to add a box shadow to serve as our background. So I'm going to come over here to box shadow. I'm going to choose my style. So I'm going to start here with a box shadow horizontal position, set this to 0. For the vertical position, I'm going to set this to -32. And then I'm going to go in and add my color. So this time, this is going to be a hexadecimal value. So I'm just going to drag the slider all the way up and then paste my values here. Now, as I mentioned before, if you want to use the exact same values as I'm using throughout this tutorial, I will leave a link to the post in the description below. All right, so now that we have this all set, now we can add our featured image. So I'm going to save this for now. And then I'm going to come over here to my section settings, click on background, and then I'm going to go with the third tab. So this is where I'm going to add my featured image. So I'm going to click this plus button here, set my featured image. And now you can see my image has been added to the background. Now I'm going to add a background color here. So I'm going to click my second tab, click this plus button, and add my first color. Now these colors here are going to have a lot of transparency. So I'm just going to drag the slider down and paste my values between the brackets like that. Click on my second color. Again, I'm going to drag the slider down and paste it like that. So for the gradient type, I'm going to change this from linear to radial. And then for the direction, I'm going to set this to from top. And for my start position, I'm going to set this to 40%. And end position, this is going to be 0. Right, so right now we can't see anything, and that is because we need to place the gradient above the image. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and now you can see my shape has been added here. So pretty much this is our final design. Let's go ahead and save this. So the example number 4 is stacking effect with dual featured images. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a brand new section. Click this plus button. We're going to add a single column. Okay, so I'm going to search for my post title here. Select that. Next, I'm going to come over here to elements. And then what we need to do different here is we're going to come here to the show featured image, and then we're going to change this and update the settings. But this time we're going to go with title meta background image. So you can see here that our background image is now in the back, and then we have our title and our meta description. Now let's update our design settings. So we're going to come over here to design text. So we're going to change our text color here from dark to light. And then here we're going to click on use text background color. And we're going to set the color by clicking this eyedropper tool and pasting our value between the brackets. So for our text orientation, let's make sure that it's centered. And now let's go to our title font. So for our title font, I'm just going to click this brush tool. We're going to set this to Roboto. For our font weight, we're going to change this to light. And then we're going to come over here to the size and set our size to 70 for the desktop. And then we might as well go in and set our sizes for our tablets and our smartphones. So for our tablets, we're going to set this to 50 pixels. And for the phone, we're going to set this to 30. So this is just though so that when people view your website on different devices, they're able to view it and the text won't be cut off. So here on the line height, we're going to set this to 1.3 EM. Let me scroll here so we can see what we're doing. Now it's time to make adjustments to our meta font. So I'm going to click here on this little brush tool. So here on the meta font, all we need to do is to set our weight to light. And our color here is going to be all C's. And then I'm going to set my letter spacing here to 1 pixel. And for our meta font style, we're going to make it all caps. Now let's head over to our custom padding. So I'm just going to scroll down here until I get to spacing, and we are going to set our padding top to 10 VW. And for the bottom, we're going to add 0. Right, so what we need to do next is to add our box shadow. So I'm going to come over here and choose this style. So for our horizontal position, set this to 0. And our vertical position to -46. And our shadow color, we're going to set this to white. So as you can see here, by adding these values, this also serves as a design element for the meta text. Now let's go ahead and save our settings, and then let's go to our section settings. So I'm going to click here on my section settings. Now what we need to do here is to add a gradient. So I'm going to click here on background, click on the second tab, click this plus button, and we're going to add our first color. I'm going to paste my color in here, add my second color. And pretty much my second color here is going to be the same as the first color. So I'm going to paste it here. And here we have place gradient above image for this to show. So I'm just going to scroll down here and say yes to that. Now I'm going to come over here to my second tab and add a background image here, but I'm going to add it as a dynamic image, and this is going to be our featured image. So now, I don't know if you can see this, but there's an image behind here. So now that is serving as our design element. So next we're going to add some custom padding. So I'm going to click here on spacing. So we're going to add 10 VW to the top and then 0 to the bottom. And let's add some margin there because our design here is way too close to the top one. Okay, so that looks much better. So now they're separated. So the next thing we're going to do now is to add a box shadow effect. So I'm going to click here on box shadow and then choose my option here for my box shadow. So for the horizontal position here, we're going to set this to 0. And then for our vertical position, we're going to set this to -92. And then over here for the shadow color, we're going to set this to white. And now you can see we have this stacking effect. Okay, so let's go ahead and save. And now to finish off this design, and this is purely up to you, but you can go in here into your row settings and click on design, sizing. And what we could do here is we could make this row full width, and then we can add a gutter width and set this to 1. So now you can see this is spanning across, but of course this is up to you if you want to have it that way. And then finally, we're going to come over here to the spacing, and we are going to add custom padding, and we're going to add 0 both to the top and the bottom. And for the left and right, we're going to set this to 6%, like that. And now we have our shapes back, and the stacking effect is still there. So this is our final design. So I just need to also explain this. Now, this image here that we're using is the same image. That's because I'm working on the same post. But of course, if I was working on different posts, I could actually add different type of images, and this would work really fine. So it looks like it's a duplicate image, but it's because I'm working on the same post, showing you all the different ways you can build this. So there you have it. Thank you all for watching. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and do follow us on our social media platforms. By doing so, you'll be notified every time we release new tutorials. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the second video.